Hey, welcome back. This week we're talking about how to keep the student engaged for the entire lesson or the majority of it. So let's jump right in. So, as you know, most of your students are kids. They have very short attention spans in most cases. And so most of your kids are not going to do any longer than a half hour lesson. Some kids, after they've been with me for a little while longer, they do 45 minutes. Sometimes they do an hour. If they do that long of a lesson, then they're usually a lot more serious of a student. They've probably been with you for a while and they've wanted to upgrade because now they're getting more serious about their playing. There's going to be a future lesson that I'm going to do specifically targeted as how long should the lesson be. There's a bunch of parameters that go with that. But let's jump into keeping the student engaged. If you can get most kids to pay attention for more than a couple minutes, you're doing really good. Or they just have a kid who's more focused than the average child, because literally, like, I have kids who within a 45-minute lesson or less, they want to learn like 5 different things. And that can be taxing on you depending on how easily you can do that. Like, I have perfect pitch, I've mentioned that before. And so I can listen to whatever song they want to learn, punch it up on YouTube right now, and learn it just like that, and start teaching it to them instantly, because I can hear the chords and the pitches and everything, and I can teach it to them in a way that they can play it instantly and write it out too. It still freaks me out that I'm able to do that, because it is kind of freakish, but it is a thing, and it makes my job very easy because I don't have to plan out a lot of time. And a lot of times these kids don't know what they want to work on, so that's the thing. But they'll jump around a lot sometimes. Sometimes they'll be really focused on one thing, and then sometimes they won't focus very well at all, and they'll want to jump to several different things. So if they don't remain focused on something for very long, go to a different topic. Like if they're having trouble with a chord, especially if they're having trouble with something. So even if they are focused, but they're having a really hard time fretting this one chord or doing it in this one position, either give it to them an easier way to play it, or move on to the next chord or the next part of the song, or move on or review something from the previous lesson. But make sure that you keep the lesson moving forward. You don't want the parent to be pissed because they see no activity going on in the lesson, even though I've had parents get a little irritated because of that. But that's just because we just happened to take a break right at the moment the parent walks up to the door or sees the screen that monitors the lesson rooms at the store, and they said, "I don't see any playing going on." I'm like, that's just because we just took a break. And you almost never play. You don't spend an entire 30 minutes or the entire hour of the lesson playing the whole entire time. You're explaining the concepts and the theoretical parts of it, the transitions, where the fingers go, and you're spending part of that time writing it out for them in almost every case. So that's part of it too. Now, if the student is disinterested, then you've got to shift gears a little bit. If it's a kid, it can be a multiple amount of reasons for that, including they're tired, they're stressed, they could be pissed off, had a bad day at school, they're bummed out about something, they're hungry, they're over energetic, and they had too much sugar or something like that. It's a real doozy. There could be a number of reasons for that. But just adapt as you go and try to keep them focused on whatever you need to get the lesson to be productive. Now, sometimes also what you're going to have to do is completely forget about playing and get their mind off of music entirely. One kid, he'd come in and would barely do any playing in most of the lessons, but he was happiest when I talked to him about his video games. So get involved with what their interests are. Like kids are really perceptive, like, because we use our phones for everything now. They'll notice when you change your screensaver on the phone. They'll notice when somebody texts you. You have to have your phone on during lessons now because you use the apps and everything for teaching. But, depending on what the text or the ringtone is, they're going to be curious. And they will notice all of that stuff. So they'll notice, like, if you have a picture of a dog or whatever. So, engage with them, let them get to know you a little bit, because you're going to have a better rapport with them anyway. They'll be more comfortable with you and your lessons will be more productive. So, just talk with them about their lives, their pets, their families, their vacation they took last week. That's all part of being a good teacher too. You care about who they are as people, and that makes it more interesting. And then, depending on what they like to do besides, that actually gives you more ammo for more musical ideas. Like, kids love video game music, film music, TV show themes. I've taught all of that stuff. So the more of the media things that they're into, or the more types of music you can gather from what they like to watch, listen to, play, etc., then you've got more ammo to give them for more lessons down the road. So if you can do that, and you should, you're actually extending the time you will most likely have with that student, because you're going to keep them engaged for longer periods of time than the average student if you didn't do that. One of the other things you will run into when it comes to keeping them engaged is the kid who comes in and has no idea what they want to work on. This is a common thing that is just, I don't get it. I was never that guy, but I was, 16 when I started playing, and I knew exactly what I wanted to learn how to play. I wanted to play heavy metal. So, songs and material was never a problem. But the way kids digest music these days, a lot of them aren't that into music outside of the lesson room. So they'll come in and they'll either forget what they wanted to work on, they have a hard time remembering the names of songs and artists, and it's just, with the amount of information, it shouldn't be tough, because all they got to do is click a button and put it in a playlist. But getting them to do that's a whole other chore and a whole other topic. But when you have that problem, or I wouldn't call it a problem, but it can be if you don't know how to handle it, especially if you work at a music store, then first thing I do is I walk out of the room and say, okay, I grab a book. Whether it helps to know if the kid's into something. Beatles is always a great suggestion, because everybody likes, not everybody, but most people like the Beatles. And myself, I'm not a huge Beatles fan, but learning Beatles songs is usually fun, because there's lots of cool stuff in there that no other artist ever put into songs that somehow doesn't musically fit there. Well, doesn't, quote, supposed to be there, it's like theoretically, but somehow it always worked. Those guys were brilliant songwriters. But most of the songs I've learned from them, even just using a book, I've learned something more about a particular song structure that I would have not learned if I hadn't played that song. And the students always enjoy it too. But, there's Pink Floyd, Metallica, Grateful Dead, Weezer, whoever you have in stock at that store. You can find a book that's got something cool for the student to learn, or you can find a chord book or a book of Disney movie themes, or something that the student is into enough to get through that lesson. And it's not your fault that they don't know what they want to work on. You should be giving them suggestions, and if you find something that they really like, build on that, write it down for them, because they won't write it down themselves. Trust me, they won't. They won't put it in their phone. You have to write it down for them. And even if you do, don't be surprised if they don't look it up and they don't do it, because it's just going to happen. Irritates the hell out of you. Sometimes it's going to piss you off, because it's like, Jesus, what else do I have to do? It's right there on the page, but they're kids and they're overwhelmed a lot of the time. So it is their responsibility, but you have to take all this other stuff into account. We're going to do another lesson, another clip about the students' responsibility for their progress and all that pretty soon here. So if you don't have access to books, like if you're teaching privately and the student shows up not knowing what they want to work on, then it's kind of a crapshoot, because you have to kind of pull things out of a hat. But what you can do is just go completely off topic of what you've been working on, especially if they weren't as focused, and just show them something cool, like harmonics, tapping, cool phrase, or something that always gets them excited, a movie theme or an AC/DC riff or something simple that they can just have fun with, that kind of takes their mind off whatever they were struggling with or just weren't into before. And then if they really like that, make a note of it. You write it down, put it in your phone wherever you have a record of it for that student, so that you know to build on that later, so you're not playing the guessing game the next time around with them. So that sums up this lesson. Let's review. So we've got the ways to keep the student engaged. So one, just make sure that it's things that they're interested in. If they're having a bad or off day, be empathetic. Try to be cool with them. Sometimes you have to stop playing altogether and just, try to be cool with them and see where they're coming from, or just say, hey dude, what's wrong? What's going on? Talk to me, If they've been a student long enough, they're going to do that. Some kids have a real hard time opening up just because they're really shy, even if they like you. So just be aware of that. It doesn't matter which ones either. Like, sometimes the little girls are shy, and sometimes they never shut up, and then sometimes the little boys barely say anything. So it very much depends on a case-by-case basis. And then, just find out about their lives, their pets, their families, their games, whatever. Again, that's going to help you figure out more musical stuff that you can teach them in the future, depending on what they like. Kids love video game music, film themes, TV themes, things like that. Does not have to be a song that's even played on guitar. Somebody has done a guitar cover of it you can find online and figure it out. So almost always. So YouTube is your friend in this case. And then you've got just if they're not sure what to work on, then grab a book. And if you don't have that, teach them something cool that they can enjoy, takes their mind off of it. And by the time you're done, the lesson should go by pretty quickly, depending on a bunch of variables. There's too many to say that this will absolutely work or not, but it has worked for me in the past. Again, all of these pointers I'm giving you are based on real life experiences in the lesson room from teaching thousands of students over the last 18 years. 30 years with kids, 18 years on guitar. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you the next time. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell. Peace out.